let me actually share my screen just so you can see. So that's yeah. So this is like the startup directory, like in your summer 2024. So this is the company that I was referring to, Arva AI. So once you click on the company here, you'll see like the founders, and they have their LinkedIn right here, right? So there's a lot of people in this call. I don't want you all to like hit them up. And so this is where it becomes, like I said, important to know which company can you actually add value to. Because, oh, this is an interesting one, because I saw some of you have sold products on Amazon, right? And so maybe this one would be more relevant to you, right? Um, so, also see if you went to the same school as the founder. He went to Stanford. Um, you know, if the founder went to the same school as you, that's a great kind of touch point there. You can say, oh, I also went here and I love the work that you're doing at your company, right? And so, try doing this, look for a company that you think would be fits well with your background, and then try to form a connection with the founder there. And the whole point is when you message the founder, don't ask for like a job right away, right? Don't ask for a job like at all, actually. The whole point is you have to build rapport and trust with them, right? So what you can do, and ideally, if they're like a consumer kind of startup, they actually have a product that you can use, actually use their product, right? Because all these kind of startups, the whole point, they're in YC to basically gain product market fit, right? They're trying to, building a startup is like a huge experiment. You come with the product, you put it out there, but everything is based on like testing different hypotheses. And all these companies are essentially testing their own hypotheses, right? Can AI-based simulation medicine actually work? Can that be a billion-dollar company? That's the hypothesis that Soma Lab is testing, right? And so if you can use their product, definitely do so, right? We like our other engineer, John, he's sitting right next to me right now. He was a user of our product, and he also went through the fellowship last year, and his work was so good, we decided to hire him, right? And I remember specifically, we had the head of AI at Duolingo at one of our events. His name is Clinton Bignell. He specifically said Duolingo is obviously very popular, but I guess some people still have never heard of it or use it. But he asks in every interview, like, are you a Duolingo user, right? Because if you think about it, obviously, if you want to work at a company, you should know what product they have out there, right? You should know what kind of engineering work they have to do. Yeah, right. And so, like, if you're going to work at Apple on the iPhone, you should at least know like a bit about how the iPhone works, right? Or if you're gonna work on Stripe, maybe that's or maybe if you go work on um like a Robinhood, like the stock trading app, you should at least try using their app, right? And then once you use the app, you can mention specific features or things to improve on if you end up having an interview with someone at the company, right? So definitely, use the product that the company has out there, and that can even be something to mention when you first reach out to the founder, right? Because let's say like this one, right? Let's say connects model developers with data rights holders. So let's say you want to like work here, right? Try using their product first, and then provide some like actual helpful feedback on that, where you use the product, maybe there's some bug or there's a feature that can be added. Try doing that, right? So that's what I'm gonna mention for track B, for the sake of time. For track C, this one is an interesting one because it also has, there's like a huge benefit to doing it as well, but maybe the bar isn't as high. So with track C, right, you're trying to get a pull request merged in like an open source repo, right? So the thing is, there's like a million, GitHub repos out there, right? So what I would probably do is, oh, this would be an interesting one. If anyone managed to do a PR on any one of Andre Karpathy's repos, that would be huge, right? Because Andre Karpathy, he's for those of you who don't know, he's a co-founder of OpenAI, and he was director of AI at Tesla as well. He also recently started his own company focused on AI education, so that's gonna be interesting. But the this stuff might be out of scope for maybe most of the fellows, but I mean, if you're already have experience with like LLMs, this would be a incredible repo to contribute to, right? So the point is you find the repo, you try to see like what are some of the issues here, and you take a look, see how much of a priority it is as well, because I'm seeing this one seems to be kind of high priority, and so look at the issues and try to see like what you can do to like fix it, or if it's not an issue per se, maybe it's like a new feature to add on top of it. So the whole point is find like a GitHub repo, and we also have like open source partner. It's called Panora.dev. And so for those of you here who went to one of our SF event, Rashid, who is the founder of this company, he's gonna be like the leader for like track C. So we have him as a partner. So oh, this is something they should update. Um, okay, so this is the repo, and then yeah. So the thing is, there's a lot of different things technically you can do to merge a PR. Maybe there's something in their docs that there's like a typo. Sure, you can make a fix there, but I think obviously we're looking for like a bigger contribution. So essentially, they have 40 issues here. Take a look at some of the stuff. Add an integration with Dropbox. And this would probably be huge, right? And so take a look at the comments, like what people are saying, and then try to like have your own implementation, right? So the thing is with the open source contributions, this one is interesting because we one of the main reasons we hired our intern Bill Zhang, and he's actually gonna be he's the one who filmed the videos for like the later projects for you all. One of the main reasons we decided to hire him is he made an open source contribution to the LangChain repo. So, so he made an open source contribution to LangChain. Specifically, what he did was he added the capability to stream function calls, and this was like a while ago. That's when that was like a whole new thing. But essentially, if you all have worked with LLMs before, function calls are extremely important because it allows the model to output valid JSON and kind of be able to do like certain things once you have valid JSON. And the thing is, being able to stream that is very important. So the user is able to see some kind of response like coming in, so they don't have to wait for the whole entire response to be generated. He added the ability to stream function calls, like basically token by token, and still maintain valid JSON kind of format. So that was something that we ourselves were, we implemented our own kind of function calling parser internally at Headstarter. And we saw that Bill was able to do that and then have it merged in LangChain, which we also use. We literally use LangChain ourselves. That was like extremely impressive. And that's something that very, very few people can say that they've done, right? That you merge the open source contribution in a repo that has, you know, close to 90,000 stars, right? So that's what I want to get into for the different tracks. Um, I want to try answering some questions here. I see a lot. So let me try doing that now. Jack will be here at 4:30 in like 3 minutes. So let me try answering some stuff here. It's a website project. So the project for this week is solo, like you're doing it by yourself. Uh, Meet up in Toronto. Sure. We'll try doing that. LIC this Saturday. I'll confirm on the location. We might get a venue. But yeah, we'll get back to you on that, more specifics on that. Oh, so the coaching call, we decided to make it available once you submit the first project, and more specifically on Friday, because that's when the project is due. So once you submit your project, and if you already submitted your project, I would actually encourage you to like continue working on it. There's always more things to improve on. And what you can do is like add Google Analytics, deploy with a custom domain, use like different UI libraries. I know Ace Trinity or ShadCN or like all these different like open source UI libraries. Try using them, make your website super like modern and kind of sleek. And so try doing that. The whole point is there's always something to improve on, right? Or always more to add. If you already submitted, I would encourage you to continue working on it, actually. Um, uh, First project, it's optional to buy a domain. If you're not able to afford it, obviously that's fine. It's better. It's just better to like have your own custom domain. Because instead of going to, like Faison codes at -githubpages.com or however it's set up. If you have like if you have your name as your domain, that's like the best. Like Yassine has his full name as his website, like YassineHassan.com. That's like the best thing, right? Because then his name also pops up on Google if you just search up his name. And so this is something that would be possible if you get like your own custom domain. So yeah. So explain more on the bonus product line page. Yeah, so in the video that Yassine made, he goes into like having like a product landing page as well. And so if you're in track A, maybe this is a bit more relevant, but you should, and there's also like additional resources added to the kind of project kind of page. I added a product landing page template as well as a portfolio starter kit template. So the whole point is you all should kind of know how to have like kind of e-commerce style websites as well, and like know how to set up products that you can like buy online as well. And so it would be a great experience for you to have. Oh, and we just have Jack joining us. So I'm super excited to introduce Jack to you all. So Jack has been a great friend of ours, a great supporter of the Headstarter kind of community. So Jack was a former tech lead at Google, and he was CTO of a company called Stonks, and I believe it got renamed to Sandhill Markets. And so Stonks, it raised around I think like $19 million from A16Z. A16Z is a type of venture capital fund. And so now, Jack, and this is something maybe I want to ask you as well. You're getting your MBA at Princeton, right?
At MIT right
Oh,
now.
MIT. Yeah, sorry. At MIT, and you're also you joined a new company as well. I saw like Sustainable AI Compute. So I love
Yeah,
to,
yeah. We're
but
we're a stealth mode company now, but I can probably share a little bit of insider info with this group too.
absolutely, yeah.
Um,
You to take it away.
Cool. I have like a really, really basic presentation I'll throw up there. Um, just to have going in the background so we have something to base this off of and want to introduce myself, um, really talk about specifically this group. Um, what I heard is this group is going for 1,000 people on the wait list, 1,000 users, or $1,000 in revenue, right?
Most of them are. Uh,
Okay,
Not
cool.
all of them, but most, yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah, there's the three tracks. I know this is at least a good chunk of the track A's. So let me share my screen and enjoy my super minimal presentation here. But all right, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my whole mentality, and I mean thanks for that introduction. I think it makes me seem like really inflated, but what it really comes down to is like I just kept making stuff and I've been doing it for like 10 years now and ended up in a really great spot. Um, oh, this is just a QR code for my Twitter. I'm trying to tweet more. And honestly, if it, like I'm not super active on LinkedIn, but I respond to basically all my DMs and comments on Twitter. So if you want to get in touch, I'll write back to you if you reach out to me here. Um, so first, want to go into my background a little bit. Um, I was a computer science undergrad, and class was, I thought I was doing pretty well in class. I got good grades, and I had a bunch of interviews lined up, and I basically failed at every coding interview I had. I think I probably at some point lined up like 10 interviews as a senior in college. It basically failed every single one. But I got my first job at IBM because I had this side project that I had worked on that was an Android app that was an environmental calculator. And you would put in every day, like how much, like how long were you in the shower and what kind of food did you eat? How far did you drive? And it would tell you your impact on the planet. And there was a leaderboard, and I thought it was super cool, and I got people to use it. Um, and looking back, it was like really simple. It looked really ugly, but it barely worked, but it did work. And luckily, this interview at IBM, I got talking with one of the interviewers just about this project. And he later told me like, you actually didn't do that well in the interview, but the project was really cool. And so we knew that you could build stuff and we wanted to hire you. So eventually got that job at IBM. Um, after I only spent a year there, my dream had always been to work at Google. So eventually applied to Google and same thing, was working on a lot of side projects and my core work and really like committed to doing software engineering interviews well, finally, and got the job at Google. And that really like set me up for my startup career also. Um, and at Google, I made a bunch of these random projects. Like I just listed a whole bunch of different things I made, but I'd love to just, there's only so much you can do kind of in your core time once you have a software engineer job. And I think um, how you really learn is just building things from scratch with in your free time with really unclear boundaries and just going for it and just building. And the first one's going to be kind of crappy, but the second one will be a little bit better, and then it'll get a little bit better. Um, and these are just some of the things that I built in the 3 years I was at Google. And this last thing was a presentation platform for startups I built with a friend. And that eventually turned into like we actually had revenue and we had users and we had this partnership. We were sending companies to use Google Cloud and AWS. Um, and we were making enough money that we decided we should quit and go in on this full time. And that became the company that eventually got acquired by this other company, Stonks, where I then became the CTO. Um, so, I think there's people in this group that are all over in their engineering experience, whether you just came from class or you're just learning, but the key thing is just start. I tried to find some screenshots of my earliest projects, like when I was in college and right out of school, and they were just so bad. They're so bad. But you learn so much from doing it, and you learn so much from doing it and not having anyone tell you what to do, but just kind of experimenting and kicking around what you're doing. Um, I think that's just the only way you get better is just putting in the time and building project after project. And then you have a base for some project that you start with your next one and you don't have to figure out the boilerplate and you can start building things that are cooler. And I can't even imagine starting to do all this now with all the AI co-pilots and tools like that. Like it gets your speed of having to learn new frameworks and docs so much quicker. So anyways, main takeaway, I would say just start on your projects, start working on something. Um, what I was, what I'm really going to cover, I think week to week here is just some of these topics on how to get your first users, get your first waitlist users, or make your first, first $1,000 um, through all these projects. I think it's great to build them for yourself, and I love like just stacking projects after projects. But you really cross the threshold when you start building and pushing a bunch of stuff out there, and you have random people using it and giving you feedback and even paying you. Like that's just it gets really really exciting and it's fun to work on. Um, so here's just, but the hardest part in that is one part of it is building it, and the other part is how the hell do you actually get people to use your stuff? So I honestly don't have a ton of content here, but I'm going to go through some of these over the next 5 weeks when we have this meeting. I think at this time, and I'll generally talk about one or two of these topics, and then leave a bunch of time open for Q&A. This is the first ones I'm going to talk about. Really, it's just getting your first users and waitlists. Waitlists are great, and it's kind of like a cheat code to feel like you make a lot of progress on your app quickly. And it's really low barrier to entry, obviously. Um, First step to all this is you do have to make something. Some people like pitch the, you can build a landing page and get waitlist signups quick enough. I think that works well. Um, what I think is really great is if you have just like the most bare bones usable product possible that's still cool enough, and you have a way to sign up. I think that's a really, compelling way to actually test if people want to use your thing. Um, so first step is you have to have something. Um, but then the step after that is really get your friends to use it. Um, I think this whole group, like you've probably built stuff and like push it on your friends, but there's a big step you have to take, almost like you've just drawn a painting and you want to like get people's opinions on it. It's almost it's a mix between art and science, but the key is when you build something, you have to get your friends using it, and you have to get people that you know and people that you in your you know network or friend group or family just using it, because anybody who's not using it, who is not you, will tell you immediately, why they like it or don't like it, and there'll be things that break that you have to fix. And when you're pushing something out there in the world, like these things have to work. People are used to some minimum amount of quality. So I say the key point here is just get people that using it, talk to them about it, fix anything that's confusing or broken, and then ask them to share it. Ask them to share it with their friends, ask them to, you know, share it with their family. It seems really cringe doing it at first, but like it's just an easy way to get out there and get really good feedback quickly, right? Um, and then, start building up your accounts to just post this stuff all over the internet. Um, it's kind of hard to get noticed sometimes on Reddit, but if you post in enough groups, you will get noticed. Um, start building up your karma on there. I've gotten some like extremely harsh, just mean feedback on stuff I've made. And I've gotten some really, good users who ended up being paid users on Reddit. Reddit's great. On Twitter, another good one, right? It's just a lot of tech people hang out on Twitter. I think there's some dark holes on Twitter, but I live in this like fun little tech bubble of just tech people, and I'd just encourage you to get on there. Follow software engineers, follow ML engineers, follow all these different, interesting people who are, building and launching stuff. Because it's interesting to learn from those people, and those people are also pretty game to try out new things. Hacker News, another good one. Like start building your reputation there, and you know, I think the tag is if you say show Hacker News and then you post a link. Um, there's a whole bunch of those every day, and I usually get a couple of clicks on whatever I'm building. And then when you really reach the point that it's ready to go, Product Hunt's a good place to go. Um, if you do all this, there's a really good shot you'll get you know, at least people landing on your site, right? You're going to get your friends, you're going to get your friends' friends. you're going to get at least like 10 random people from the internet if you post it all over the place. Um, and then it's just to make sure that you are capturing those people somehow, whether you're getting a waitlist email or actually getting them to sign up and interacting with them early. So, if they're commenting on any of your posts, like make sure you're interacting with them. If they're signing up via email, email them and follow up. Like it's obvious stuff to get started, but you just want to get talking to these people. And I think really the moral of the story is you just have to put yourself out there. And a really simple way to do that is build something that's just cool enough, ask everyone you know and post it on the internet, and make a really simple, usable waitlist to get started. Um, I like using waitlists because authentication is kind of a pain to build into web apps sometimes, if you don't have a good template or service that you like to use. And you can literally just have like a text box that posts an email into a database, um, and just collect a bunch of emails in the most bare bones way possible. And in that way, you're launching something where you're like actually capturing users and getting people who are a little bit excited. Maybe you can give them a little bit of functionality. I don't know exactly what everyone is building, but you know, free uses or free credits or minutes on the platform, whatever it is, and then collecting emails is usually a good way to do it. I see there's a whole bunch of chat messages. Should I can't really keep up with them, but it looks like a lot's going on in there. Um, that's that's really all I had prepared in terms of talking about a lot of really high level stuff. And I can go into detail with some of my projects, I think, in the next couple weeks. But I just wanted to set the tone of the best thing that you can do to build, to get to that 1,000 user threshold, or even on the other tracks. I think there's a track about cleaning out a company's backlog or committing to an open source project. Um, the best way to do any of those things is to, yeah, focus on that thing, and actually, if it's maybe not the project thing, focus on, the open source community you're trying to interact with or the company you're working with, but building on your own time with no expectations, just for fun, just to build what you think is interesting. You will learn so much. Um, and it's about getting those reps of just building, because then you'll know a good, front end framework to build and the right patterns in order to build an onboarding flow or get a person using an app, or you'll know the right way to structure a backend in a database, so that you can have recommendations pop up quickly or provide some sort of interesting functionality, you know quickly. But a lot of that learning just happens. It can either happen kind of slowly over time, depending on what needs to be built, or it can happen with you just like following what you want to get built. And once you've built something that you think is interesting, put a wait list on it, share it with your friends, share it with the internet, um, and you'll like no doubt hit, anywhere between 10 and 100 people on the wait list in a couple days. And then it's just about following up with those people and seeing like who are your people that are going to use the app. And I think there's no question you can hit 1,000, if you really, put your mind to it. What do you think? Should I go through the chat and try to answer some of these questions?
Yeah, I actually have I have like two questions that I want to ask you myself. So before you joined, I was telling them like a core belief that we have, that Yassine and I have, which is distribution eats product for breakfast. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
heard that term before. But what
yeah,
you just said, it truly like defines that, right? So kind of what I want to ask is, so Sandhill Markets, like you're kind of the company that you were CTO of, it was for democratizing venture investing, right? And it was all like consumer focused. So um like were you involved with like the growth strategy, or is there anything you can share? How did you acquire users for that?
yeah, totally. So I mostly built the product, but a lot of the product features I built were growth focused. And my co-founder, non-technical co-founder, ran growth for the company. So we talked about it all the time, and I would build a lot of features that need to be built. Um, I think at the end of the day, what we did was we built a platform for incubators, accelerators, VC firms to raise additional funds for the companies that were in their portfolio or batch or whatever it was. So like a great growth strategy for us is we just went from firm to firm and we would host basically their first event was free. And so you go to Andreessen Horowitz or you go to 500 Global or Techstars. We did a whole bunch of Techstar stuff. Um, and we would host their events for free. And then we would get, for a single event, we would sign up all the startups, everybody who watched, um, and anybody who interacted with the companies after the event. And we would just have all of those people then, on our platform. We have their emails. We have something that they are interested in. Either they want to meet investors or they want to meet companies. Um, and we slowly just built that pool. So we went from like little silo of like, here's the little Techstars ecosystem to here's the 500 Global to here's the, name your accelerator, incubator, VC. Um, and we just slowly built up having this really great base of just all these companies and investors and people. And then we started, cross-pollinating. So inviting them from one group to another, asking them to invite their friends who might be interested in similar companies. That was really, really our approach. But it started with like a very hands-on, we're hosting these, it's pretty manual to put on like an event for a specific company at a given time. Um, so there was a pretty manual side, and then there was a pretty technical side of like, I'm building referral features, and we have to have good enough benefits that someone would want to share the link with their friend. Um, a lot of it comes down to like, is the user experience good enough that someone would stake their own personal reputation on sharing it with a friend of theirs or a company of theirs? And you have to make sure like the product is awesome, and then you also have the features to share it.
Wow, very cool. So the other question I have is, so you did all this, you're CTO of, like, incredible company. What made you decide to go and get an MBA, right? Seems like you already know business really well. So what made you want to go do that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so the only place I wanted to go and do it was at MIT, and it was to get involved really in some deeper tech opportunities. Um, I'd spent a lot of my career, 7-ish years building really fintech web apps, and I wanted to get deeper into the stack. I wanted to build some. I've always had this, and this is kind of what I'm working on now, honestly, which things have really aligned. The stars have aligned here. I saw that AI was using a ton of power and electricity. And I thought it was a really interesting way as someone who was interested in software. I mean, I mentioned that first project that got me my first job was like an environmental tracker thing. I'd always had this idea of like, I want to fight climate change somehow, but there's just very few roles that where what you're writing with software actually impacts the planet. Um, and I saw this AI wave coming, and I thought it would be interesting to build a way to basically host AI workloads in a way that used renewable power. And that's kind of what I'm working on now. So it's this marriage of there's a big software component, but there's also a big hardware component of like building physical infrastructure. And then there's a big financial engineering piece. And I just didn't really know any of that. And I thought it was worthwhile to go and meet really smart people both on the AI side and the climate side. And that's what I've been doing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think are you able to see the Q&A chat?
Yeah, I can see some of it. I see someone keeps writing in there, is it okay to use AI to build stuff? I feel guilty using AI. Um, to that, I would say it's completely okay to use AI to build stuff. I was actually thinking about this the other day. As long as you actually know what your code is doing, I think it's really, really useful. And can really like turn around, remove some of the nitty-gritty boilerplate boring stuff from what you're doing to actually get to a usable product more quickly. I would say like a massive positive for me is that I barely read docs anymore. I like ask ChatGPT like, hey, I'm about to use this like pretty It's a open source library that's been out there for a while, or a tool that has published docs. Like, how do I get started? And it'll kind of tell me what to do, and then I'll start coding in, VS Code with GitHub Copilot on, and it'll help kind of mold what I'm doing. Um, and I think it's super, super helpful for picking up new libraries and frameworks from scratch. And it's going to be here forever. So the argument of like you don't want to be too reliant on it, I don't know if that necessarily applies. Like unless you're coding on like a bus or an airplane or something, like you're going to have a copilot around. I would just the big thing you have to know is I think like eventually it's going to abstract to someone who's writing code is really just making a series of trade-offs of like how they want the UI to look. Do they want to latency versus reliability versus like cost, like all of the kind of the intricacies of building a bigger app. You gain a lot of that. Um, a bigger app or even like a single script, like some little piece of functionality. I would just say really make sure you know what you're doing in terms of what's the functionality that you're coding in or what are the trade-offs that you're making. And as long as you understand all of that and have like and still develop like a bit of taste. Like taste is important too. Like what does it actually look and feel like? Is this a good user experience versus not? Totally okay to use AI stuff. And I think you should use AI stuff.
Yeah, Jack, have you used a code editor called Cursor?
Uh Cursor.
Yeah. It's like a AI first code editor. It's what I use in like our engineer. Like most of our code is written by AI now.
Very cool. Yeah, I have heard of it. I actually haven't used it myself, but it's you basically say like I want you to write this function, right? And it writes the
Hmm.
whole thing or like this component.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
the thing with using ChatGPT for code is that, when you're working with a large code base, you can like copy paste all your code in it so it can probably understand. But the cursor, it has like context of the entire code base. So you can like chat with the whole code base essentially. But yeah, maybe it's like something for you to check out, as well as everyone here as well.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely will. I have someone I'm working with now used it. I think and they basically say they use it for the first run of whatever they're doing, writes a lot of the boilerplate, and then you go and fix a lot of the details. I mean, it's similar to how you would write kind of an essay with ChatGPT, right? Like,
Mhm.
hey, write me an essay on this. Maybe gives you a good outline, maybe, but you should never push that directly to production or even your test environment unless you actually know what it's doing. You have to know every little bit of what it's doing.
Hmm.
Because obviously when you write it yourself, you do. So that's the one thing that's a bit crazy, but no guilt at all. I mean, everybody in the world is using these things. Everybody from senior developers to like, you know, people who are just getting started and they're gonna be here forever. So as long as you understand every line and you understand the trade-offs that you're making and you maintain a little bit of taste, like what's good versus what's bad, um, I think you're fine.
Hmm. Yeah. You wanna take a look at
Yeah.
some?
Yeah, I saw one that's like how do you generate ideas to work on?
Hmm.
I think
It's
that's
a good
interesting.
one.
Well, there's kind of two things. Like there's ideas that you just think are cool to work on. Um, and those I think are the best for learning. Well, it's really the best for both. Because if you're really interested in it, chances are like someone else is really interested in it. Like I'll fully tell you one of the side projects I'm working on right now, which could be really stupid, but I think it's kind of fun, is a site where you go on and you describe some sort of like photo or art, and then it gets AI generated, but you don't see it. It gets mailed to you. So you have to pay for it first. You pay like 50 cents and then you get a postcard of like that thing you generated. So it's like delayed gratification plus like,
Hmm.
you actually have a physical thing that you made. I think it's kind of interesting. There's like a bunch of these postcard APIs you can play with. That's uh that's just an example of something like you can see I'm just like it's interesting to me. It's interesting to mess around with like both the physical API and building the web interface to make that like a really, really clean payments flow into actually convincing people to do it. Um, Other side of it is like, problems you face in your work or school or that you just think are interesting. And then the whole other way to do it is like go talk to people and fix their problems. Like everybody could use like an AI bot for some specific niche thing that you've never heard of, but you either fix something that like you think is deeply interesting or helpful to you, or just go out and talk to people. Like most people aren't software engineers and can't build apps for themselves, but have ideas and are happy to have you do it. I think I can probably get to a couple more questions. Um, what side project do you think helped get you into Google? Um, and was quitting Google worth it? Both good questions. From a monetary perspective, I probably would have been making more money if I stayed at Google. Turns out the big tech companies pay well. But they are really it becomes really slow work after a while. Um, as opposed to like the trade-off is, at a startup, you're learning really fast, you're building really fast. I can come up with an idea, write the code, push to production, have users using it within like maybe even an hour span, right? A couple hours. In Google, that feedback cycle is from like idea to writing a design doc to writing the code to testing it to slowly releasing it is like measured in weeks, especially on the big products. So I worked on search there for a number of years, and then I worked on a smaller internal team also. Um, and so it's a much slower process. So if you want to get paid well and like are okay with the a kind of more deliberate bureaucracy process, it's a great life. I'd always wanted to start something myself and was eventually ready to jump. Um, and it's been exciting, but not like crazy, crazy successful. I'd say mid-level successful, but I think it set me on a path that I'm really happy with. So is it worth it? I would say yes.
Mhm.
Um, what was the project that got me into Google? It was basically, I think one of the ones there, I built this like variant of like Catan that you could play because I was really into like, it was like Catan and chess. Um, I had built these bots and then I, it was more like the interface was pretty crap, but it was like fairly complex on the back end. And I just remember talking over it with one of the reviewers. Um, it was that plus like I just did a ton of those coding problems, and it's such a necessary evil. And I don't like the coding problems at Google. Then I interviewed probably like 50 or 60 people. I ran a bunch of those coding interviews. Um, and it's a hard process, but it really does weed out. And I think the big advice I would say in taking those, having been on the other side, is like you can just tell someone who showed up to the interview and is like leaning on kind of their experience, and someone who has like very deliberately done 100 coding problems and can talk about them out loud and can solve them. And when they get stopped, ask the right questions. Um, yeah, those are hard, but you just have to take the time to do it.
Wait, one last thing, Jack, before I think you have to probably head out now, right?
Yeah, I have a couple more minutes if we're hanging
Yeah,
around.
okay. One thing that I think will be extremely relevant here is like, so I told him how startups tend to hire failed founders or just people who try to like put a product out there and try to get people to use it. Do you have any insight to share on that? Like, maybe were you looking to hire for?
100%.
Okay.
So one of the big things now, because I'm looking to hire like mid-career ML engineers for this
Mm.
company I'm working on now. Um, and I mean, as someone who's worked at big tech, I'm like, we're not hiring engineers from Google or Facebook. What I want is someone who has like built stuff from zero to something at a startup and like really had ownership of a product. It's a totally different person than someone who's worked at the bigger companies. And I think just much, scrappier, like more willing to deal with ambiguity engineers um, who really just do more. I think at the end of the day, like you do more working at a startup or an earlier stage company because there's less structure. There's more just like need to push features and code. And you have to learn all over the place. Now, that's not to talk too badly about Google because I did work with some of the smartest people, I've ever met there, definitely. But it's just there's a lot more process. You can never break search because if you break search, it's like you're losing however many millions of dollars per second, right? So it's just there's a lot of checks and processes to get anything launched. That's both from a it'll break the code base perspective and from a if the pixels are off, then a million less people will click on an ad or something. Like that's just the kind of scale they're dealing with. And those are the two extremes, right? Like projects started from scratch to like literally the biggest company in the world, or maybe the biggest web traffic in the world. So it's don't over index on those two experiences, but yeah, I would say like the person that I want to hire for any project is someone who has built something from scratch and brought users on it and got those users to pay them. Because it means, they've built something that people actually want, and people don't pay for things that are like unpolished or don't work.
Mm.
So it kind of like implies that you've built something that works really well. And it also means that you like fully understand the stack top to bottom.
Hmm. I think everyone might want to switch to track A now that you said that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I really do love seeing open source uh, contributions also. Well, all the tracks are good, right? I think track A, I just think is awesome because it's really project based and it's like there's a lot of room to experiment. Track B sounds like you get to actually work with a company, which is really great. And I don't know, maybe that turns into you working for the company for longer. And open source, contributors are having open source like contributions is such a next level thing. I feel like there's so few people who make a lot of big, meaningful changes to open source frameworks um, that when you encounter those people, it's like, oh, okay, this is a serious engineer. So I think they're all good tracks. I'm definitely partial to number one
Mhm.
or A, but they all work.
Mhm.
Stack recommendation, please. I mean, my if I'm trying to build something to get users on it as quickly as possible, I just don't want to worry about infrastructure or anything that's not really a user experience. So I just like Next.js, Vercel. If you need to have any complex backend processing, use like Upstash, which has caches and queues, API functions within Next.js, and you can build like a fully functioning web app where you're basically paying nothing up to. I think it's like you won't feel Vercel gets expensive at like tens of thousands of users, maybe thousands of users. But up to 1,000 users, it's like a really cheap, just great platform to get moving really quick. And there's ways that you can shift that eventually onto like GCP or AWS. But it's like a really, really great way to get started. And not even get started. It's like a lot of big, big companies rely on that stuff forever just because the developer experience is so, so good. So yeah, I'm a Next.js like big fan. I go to all like I know some people at Vercel now, and they invite me to like the Vercel conference stuff, and I always am a big fan. So I don't get paid to say that. Um, cool. Maybe one more question here. How do you there's a good one here about like how do you deal with procrastination and pushing yourself? How do you personally deal with procrastination, push yourself against adversities? Um, I think that's a good question, especially there's like a really big there's a really big mental block to getting started, I think, on projects. Like I have a whole bunch of random ones or ones that I never did or ones that I like barely started that I maybe like have in my head or even like wrote in my notes app. Um, but the hardest part is like building it to a point where you think it's cool enough to show someone because it's really easy to give up before then because you're like, it's not good enough. Like I can't figure out the user authentication. This isn't actually that useful. No one's using it. Um, but I think it's just like you got to push through that wall of building it up until you get like someone to use it. And then it's a really cool experience when your friends use it and like actually think it's cool. They're not lying to you. They actually think what you built is cool. And it's an even cooler experience when you build something and you put it on the internet and someone you've never met shows up and starts using it. Like I built this, one of my projects is still live. It's this website called Low Tech AI, lowtech.ai. It was just like a prompt library for non-technical people, basically. I mean, it's still up there and some people pay for it. But someone emailed me like, this is the most incredible thing, blah, blah, blah. It was a guy from, I think like Ecuador. I was like, how did he even find this thing? Like maybe Product Hunt, maybe Twitter, maybe Reddit. But that's a really cool experience. So I would say motivation, you just got to push yourself through the wall of not having anyone use it. And once you get through, it's really great. And to really end with the last question, have I dealt with imposter syndrome? Like, of course, a ton. I'm definitely like I feel like I'm pretty competent in software, but there's always more software. Like I live in the web app world, and there's so much deep infrastructure and embedded systems and like AI, let alone like I'm trying to build some of this infrastructure, like actually breaking ground on like building a data center at some point. So I feel it all the time, but just pretend like you doesn't exist because everybody feels it.
Jack, you're building a data center, you said?
That's the long-term roadmap. Right now, we're building the software platform for AI training using some rented GPUs, but eventually we want to break ground on our own. That's the long-term plan.
Ah, okay.
Um, cool. Well, yeah, good luck to everyone. I think we're gonna talk again. I think we have this slot basically for the next 4 weeks. And how long is the track?
Oh, so the fellowship is 7 weeks. They start their kind of final project on week 5. So if you want like the exact date, I'll just give you that right
Oh,
now.
cool. So the project isn't started yet.
Technically, if they want to get ahead, they're free to do so.
Well, now's like an awesome time to just go build something that you think is cool. It doesn't have to be related to your project or any of the goals. Like,
Mhm.
just go make something you think is interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and like, because I've done that, and something that was like totally irrelevant I ended up copying that code base and using kind of a lot of the flows I learned and like how you even just move from page to page or like what cards look good or drop downs or like header SEO, like really basic stuff that I had just like figured out in messing around. I ended up using for my like actual startup as the base template. So as you're learning, like it's just really good to just mess around with this stuff. Um, cool. I'm gonna head off here, but I'll see everyone next week. Just go make some stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zach. I mean, I learned a lot from you, and I'm pretty sure everyone else did as well. I think you made everyone switch to track A. That's what I would say.
Well, both are great, and I will say like open source contributions are so impressive and necessary. And there's nothing like working for an actual company too, so that's definitely useful. But track A, go track
Yep.
A. All right.
Thank you again, Jack. Take care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay on for like maybe 5 minutes for like Q&A. But yeah, what did everyone think of Jack? He's a super cool. He had a stable job at Google. He left to, build his startup. And yeah, I mean, as a startup founder myself, I would love to see other people become startup founders or at least go on to work at startups as well. And so you heard it straight from him. He's looking to hire people who have built projects and put it out there and got people to pay. There's literally no one else to like, no one better to tell you that than Jack, right? This guy is saying Jack is jacked. So yeah, moral of the story, build something, put it out there, right? No matter how bad it is, just build something and get it out there, get feedback on it, keep iterating, and talk to your users as well. So the chat is kind of going crazy right now, but let me take a look at like the actual Q&A stuff. Uh, any way to make a LinkedIn groups? Yeah, so we'll think of like how to prevent like this spamming. Was you spamming LinkedIn's that's pretty inappropriate, and I doubt anyone is gonna connect with you there. But okay, so let me look at the what tech stack do you recommend? So Next.js is like the framework, and deploying to Vercel. That's actually the same stack that we use. So yeah, Next.js, Vercel, use a React Tailwind, um, and yeah. So for those of you applying, I mean, asking about applications still open, we're we're pretty much not accepting anyone right now unless you are registered with the team or you have like a team member that's already accepted. So if you don't have that, then you'll be rejected. Um, we want to kind of get done with all the applications, and so that's what I would say. Are we gonna have ownership over our final project? Yes, your project is your project. We have nothing to kind of like we don't that's completely on you. We're not involved in that. Are there any legal concerns to making your application a paid resource? If you actually end up making a lot of money from it, I guess like the taxes will be a kind of thing. I would say when you set up Stripe, as for like the paywall on your app and for the third project, which is like is it a third project? Okay, so the project for week 4, the flashcards, yeah, flashcards and Stripe, that's when you'll get experience with like the Stripe API. And so the only kind of legal things I can think of right now is related to the taxes. Like if you actually end up making a lot. I think if it's under a certain amount, you might have not have to report it, but I'm not entirely sure on that. So uh that's what I'd say. What advice would you give to all the fellows who are not familiar with multi technologies? Yeah, so for this, I would say learn the tech stack that Jack just mentioned, right? And that I just mentioned. Next.js, it's a React framework. Learn React. If you kind of know like basic HTML, CSS, I think you'll be able to pick it up relatively easily. Uh, so definitely try doing that. Watch like tutorials here and there, but I think most importantly, try building out something on your own. So a common issue is that people get stuck on just watching different tutorials, but you don't end up building something on your own. And I think that's what's needed to actually level up your skills. So the big thing is just focus on like one stack, and that is React. Um, if you want to dabble into Tailwind, it has a bit of a learning curve, but I mean, I've been using it for over a year now, and I can't look back at like vanilla CSS. So React, Tailwind, um, and then we use Neon as our database, and so it's like Postgres. So learning how to like interact with that, and so get used to kind of the stack, and TypeScript as well. So if you want to use that stack for the portfolio website, please feel free to do so. If you're a bit more advanced, then definitely like try to challenge yourself, right? So yeah. Do you need to have any initial experience with CSS or HTML or AI to succeed in the fellowship? So there are video tutorials for each project. I'll say that. But the whole point is that you're gonna learn along the way, right? There's no way to learn everything beforehand. So I think what's most important is to just stay dedicated and, put in the time. When you say 20 hours a week, that's like just the minimum. The whole point is the more hours you put in, it's only gonna benefit you more, right? And so if you stay focused on, the stack that I just mentioned, and you just put in, 4, 5, 6 hours every day. For those of you who have like a full-time job, maybe you take out a few hours in the night. Whatever it is, as long as it's something consistent every day, I think you'll be able to build uh anything you want, essentially, right? The consistency is key because if you're coding only like once a week or only like 2 days a week, then that might be like a barrier to like helping you gain more actual experience, right? So try to code every day, whether it be for 1 hour or for 8 hours. The whole point is that it's like kind of building your muscle, right? Building like your muscles. You have to keep them active. You have to like actively train them to like keep yourself fit. Kind of same thing applies to coding. You have to do it every day or else you kind of lose touch, right? Um, so that's that. Um, yeah, is there a hackathon or IRL event this weekend? So what I would say is for those in New York, and I'll say this for New York specifically, there'll be like we'll have the hackathon, and if you want to meet in person as well, we'll do that as well. For the other locations, um, we will get back to you on that. Um, Justine is an SF, so I'll let him send an update for that. But New York, will have something. For those of you like international people, maybe some of you can volunteer to like kind of lead or like host a meetup on your own. Try to find like an open area, like a park or something, or like a mall where like a large kind of group of people can gather without causing like an issue. But we'd love to see people like organize that, as well as like if you go on like the IRL chats, or I mean the channels on Discord, I love how active they are. And so try to, organize something there as well. So I'll answer a couple more here. I'm actually about to go to an event with some we're the founders of a company that actually are interested in potentially hiring some of you at the end. About to go meet with them, and so we'll tell them like how amazing you all are. And so um, what are all the websites we can use for building your portfolio? Can it be WordPress? So it should be like coded on your own. Um, I would not use WordPress because you're not getting like coding experience with that. So yeah, watch the video. There's a ton of links there as well. So try doing that. It's not necessary to buy a custom domain. Obviously that costs some money, so it's not necessary to do that. The Google Calendar, we're working on sending that out today. So Yassine will get back to you all on that. Hackathons are virtual. How would you be judging for track B? Um, I'm not sure what exactly that means. Um, Hackathon have winners? Yes, we'll have like a top three for each like that for each of the hackathons. To volunteer to sub event, just try asking around in the IRL channels. And if you see like enough interest, then just tag Yasin and I, and then maybe we'll like try to help you out with like setting something up there. So I'll answer maybe like two more here. If you have a portfolio already, like I said, there's always more you can add to it or more you can do to improve it. So try to use like different UI frameworks or try looking at other portfolio websites from like other people and taking inspiration. So, there's always more you can do. Can you choose any repo for Traxly? Yes, you can. We just have a dedicated person that you can work with, or like uh for Panora.dev that you can work with. So you're free to like choose any repo, but if you having trouble doing that, then you can help with um the Panora.dev. So I kind of end off here. For those of you asking about like how do you approach startups, I talked about that in the beginning. So, I'm recording this and it's recording right now. But so for the person spamming here, that's quite inappropriate. That question has been, answered like many, many times. And so the answer is four. Four is max person per group. So that's what I'll say. For those of you spamming, just know that I'm gonna be looking this over, and if you are spamming, then uh that's a very bad look. So just keep that in mind. All right, with that kind of being said, I'm gonna head out now. But yeah, so Jack is gonna be doing this every Tuesday. So this is just incredible for Jack to like spend his time talking to you all. And yeah, he agreed to do this, and it's super exciting. So yeah, with that, I'll kind of end it off. I hope this was helpful for all of you. But yeah, take care, everyone. Have a good day.